Hey everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Mic'd Podcast. I'm Mike, a hairdresser of over 20 years. One of the best parts of my job is the conversations that I get to have with all of my clients. We talk about anything and everything and invite you to listen in as we get mic'd up for today's conversation. Today we had Julie in the chair. Julie is a 41-year-old acting teacher and a mother of 5. Today we talked about the challenges of adoption and how therapy can truly save our lives. I hope you enjoy. Hey, welcome.
Thanks for having me in your chair.
I'm glad you're here.
I'm glad we're mic'd.
I'm glad. Let's see how many times we can tag in mic'd.
Yeah.
Throughout.
Well, I miss you. I'm glad I get to see you finally.
Throughout our
I'm excited to be mic'd today with you. Here on Mike.
We're all mic'd up now. We're ready to go.
Hey, everybody. Here we go. Never had a.
I'm Mike on the Mic'd Podcast.
Hi, everybody. This is Mike's Friends Mic'd, and we're mic'd. It's Mike and Friends.
No, but so what would you talk about if you were the?
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm going through like the biggest chaos of my life right now with my adopted child. And it's like insane.
Okay, so what's the chaos?
Okay, Charlie's 8.
Okay.
We adopted him out of foster care.
And how long ago was this?
We got him at 1.
Okay.
He's our nephew. So he's Jake's, my husband's sister's child.
Okay.
He came to us at 1. He was adopted at 3. And now we're like preparing so we adopted him at 3. And now we're like 2 years into school. And this kid is like struggling.
Like struggling how? Like what? I mean, if it's like, what are the struggles of an 8-year-old?
You would think it wouldn't be that big of a deal. I don't know. Adoption has been really, really, really interesting. When I was like really little, I had like a dream my whole life that I was going to be able to adopt. I used to like when the African children posters would come that were like for 10 cents a day. Mm-hmm. And I would like look in the couch for 10 cents. And I'd be like, I'm going to adopt an African baby. I don't think I understood that like I was paying just for their schooling, not like that they were coming to my house. But I hoped that they would come to my house and I would get to like take care of them and like help them be okay.
So what caused you to like want to adopt then? Like, have you always wanted to?
I've always had that desire. I mean, I really think that was always there. But I think now in hindsight, I look at it and I'm like, I thought I was a very capable person of doing that. But man, this will challenge you. You get into it and you're like, am I capable of doing this? Did I make the right choice?
But so you said, tell me your son's name.
Charlie.
So, but Charlie was your
nephew. Yeah.
So how do you go and adopt the nephew?
Yeah. I mean, so mom and dad both have been struggling with drugs for most of their life.
Okay.
And they came dad was on probation. Probation officer came in and was like, found them both kind of passed out on the bed, paraphernalia everywhere. And so they removed Charlie that day.
Are the parents still involved with the kid? Like, or is it no?
Dad's struggling for sure. Like we haven't seen him since he signed away his rights. So I don't hear from him. He has a really sad story. Like he was like, his dad was having him sell meth when he was like 13 years old. So there's like, that's hard to come back from, right?
Yeah.
To ever like do something again. And then mom, because she's related to us, is definitely a little bit more involved, but it is like, it's traumatic every time Charlie has to see her. It's difficult for like him to kind of rationalize or to understand why he has to leave. And then she's really has a hard time like obeying's the wrong word, but like respecting any of the boundaries that we've set for him.
Yeah.
Like sugar's a really bad trigger for him. The kid will eat like until he like throws up. So we're like, we can't like have him have as much sugar as you would like to give him, but she just like cannot respect boundaries.
Yeah.
So we don't have as much to do with her, but I have invited her to like the big things, here and there. But
so then right now, the big issue, what's the big issue? Like again, 8 years old, like you think, how can they have, and especially coming into the adoption process at 1. Like it's not like
right. Everyone
like
thinks if it's a baby, you're good, right?
Yeah, I mean, what you've heard, I hear about people that are adopted in that later in life, and those because of different situations they were in. But at 1, it's like
this is the thing. I just feel like people do not understand enough about the fact that like no matter what, like you're affected in utero. So like she definitely was taking drugs. So we deal with some of those issues of her having like use drugs in utero. And that leads to a lot of like, it can lead to ADHD. It can lead to other like ODD, which is oppositional defiance disorder, I guess is how they categorize it now.
Really? I've never heard of ODD.
Yeah. I think it's kind of a new one. It's really like, hey, you're a hard kid that doesn't listen.
Okay.
But we're talking to the extreme. So like Charlie hit his teacher the other day, which like,
yeah, that's not good.
That's oppositional defiance disorder, as you can imagine. Did not go over well.
Is ODD more like physical outbursts where ADD tends to be more just like not focusing, not being able, or
I would say that's probably the difference, but that's my uneducated like idea, right? It definitely has been, and we're not even sure if that's his diagnosis right now. I'm just shocked how much like someone being adopted affects their lives. I don't think that we like talk about it enough or like discuss the fact that like how much it disrupts the family of origin. So like his parents, how much it's disrupted us, like our children and like what they deal with now. And then for that child in and of itself, like Charlie and I had a conversation the other day. He was like, he had a total meltdown at school. So we brought him home early. And he was sitting there and he was like doing anything he could to just kind of like express himself. But he was like screaming. He was like, I hate you. I think you're terrible. You're the worst person ever. And I just had this moment where like your first response, your gut response is like, well, I don't like you either. You know what I mean? Like your response is like, well, I think you're rude and disrespectful and you treat me bad. And then your like adult, response like checks in, hopefully you've had a good day. You've done what you need to do. And I was like, hey, bud. I was like, I think you miss your mom. I think you miss Kate. And he was like, what? I was like, it's really hard. You can't be with her, huh? And he's like, I do miss her. That's exactly, yes, I miss her. I wish I could be with her every day. And I never even got to be with her even one day in my entire life. And I was like, and I just had to like hold space for him, But it's like, it's so hard because you're thinking like this dumb broad, that's a rude thing to say about his biological mom. But listen, let's be honest about how I feel sometimes. But I'm like, she gets all the glory and I'm the one showing up at parent teacher conference. You know what I mean? Or getting yelled at the phone by the principal again. It's rough.
Is Charlie, because I guess the other hard thing with adoption is like you have how many of your own kids?
I have 4.
4.
Yeah.
And is Charlie the youngest?
Charlie was the youngest until we added a new one just like 18 months ago.
Okay. So are the other kids, because I feel like it would be difficult, especially for like a child that needs that attention.
Yeah.
Because obviously you love them and you don't want to have, but it demands more attention. There's different things that come up. You have to, answer the calls of the principal or whatever. Do your other kids feel neglected?
I think it's definitely displaced our one just older than him, Louis. Mm-hmm. So it'll be a little bit of displacement in the fact that like he became a middle child, right? Instead of the youngest, which is like an interesting thing. And then also like when he has bad behavior, you'll kind of see it bleed out into some of the other kids. Like Louis said something random to me when Charlie was having like a fit and I just like pulled him to the side and I was like, I can love you. You don't have to be upset for me to like give you what you need. But for sure, I mean, and you have to kind of answer that. Like you have to be open enough and like prepared as a parent to like understand that like everyone experienced a little bit of trauma when it happened, right? Yeah. Like when you adopted, when you built this new family, there's like incredibly beautiful parts about it. The only one I think that has been guarded from it so far is our new daughter who we just added. Her name's Clara. She's 18 months old. But Charlie has always been there for her, right? And so like, even though she's tiny, she comes in, she goes, Charlie, and she'll like run and hug him and you see him like, the payoff is huge, right?
Yeah.
But there's no bad blood. yet. There's only like joy and happiness with him and her. And like, that's the truest connection I think I've seen of like any of the kids.
Well, and I wonder if that's just because she wasn't there.
Exactly.
This is a new part of his life.
Right.
And you guys are showing, like, it's in a sense, it's teaching him, here's how you treat a baby. Here's how you treat somebody younger than you. Here's how you treat. So like, but I don't know.
It's fun to see him with her though, because then he gets the buy-in that he's not the youngest anymore. And that was the hard thing, is adopting someone that came in as the youngest too.
Mm-hmm.
Cause like, what part is like that I'm not part of this family, and what part of it is just that you're the youngest of this family? You know what I mean? Like, cause inevitably like his older brothers pick on him, or like his sisters, you know, he thinks his sister's mean or whatever.
I want to get more into like, why did you guys, like, how did it come to like, you were the ones that adopted him? Like, was there other people in the family? Like, what did you feel like, how did you get to the point? Like, obviously there was drugs and stuff in that family, but like, how do you go about, where do you go from that? Like, hey, here's my relative that's having this issue.
This is what we're doing.
Adopt their kid. Like, yeah.
Well, I had this moment when we first found out she was pregnant. They kind of had told us that that she was thinking about adoption. So I had started kind of contemplating it at that point. And I really felt like a pretty powerful prompting from God that I felt like that was probably what we were going to do. And I didn't know if that meant we would have him forever. I sort of wondered if it meant that like while she was getting clean, we would care for him. If she went to rehab, we would care for him, right? Mm-hmm. And so I had kind of like been preparing myself that might be an option. And we were actually living out in Illinois at the time when she was pregnant. So I didn't think it would be an option, but we came home right after he had been born. And then when he was taken, a lot of there was no way any of his dad's side of the family would have been able or capable to take him. But the state of Utah always offers to family first. So we ended up just like, the family was like, yeah, you take him for now. And then we became like they're called kinship placements.
Okay.
So we ended up just being the kinship placement because we were kind of the only family that had space or like really a desire to do it at that point. And then from there, so Utah has this law where if they're under the age of 5, you have to complete all of your DCFS like paperwork and all the things that you needed to complete to like show that you wanted your child to return to you within like 12 months. They'll give you an extension, but they consider children that are 1 to 5 years old like highly adoptable, or also that like they may have like had some that they could benefit from a home life. Rather, like if the kid's like 8 or 10, right? Like their connection to their birth parent is so much higher that reunification is a little bit more important to them than I guess they think of like someone who's under the age like 1 to 5, which like, I mean, I will say still that the state of Utah did everything that they could for her. She did end up like signing her rights away. Like we spent 12 months. She went through like 3 different rehabs in that whole time. Wow. And like just tried and tried, but it was just, there was no way. By the end of it, it was definitely not a choice. It seems like such a
hard, like that would be such a difficult choice to be able to take someone that I knew's child, not even but just like take responsibility for them, because they themselves can't give that responsibility or give that child what the child needs. I just can't even imagine it. Like, I think it's amazing that you guys have done that you were able to give Charlie a place.
I think that I spent like the first like 6 months really hoping and being more of her advocate. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like trying really hard to get her to where she wanted to be and that he would be able to go back. And then I think it changed after like the second rehab that I really became like Charlie's advocate.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And then it wasn't nearly as difficult.
And is that because you just saw like there wasn't progress happening with the mom? There wasn't progress that was going to put Charlie into a space that...
Yeah, you get to the point where you realize that like there's one person who is capable of changing their existence here, right? Like she's an adult. So like she actually can change, even though it might be ridiculously difficult, right? It might be the hardest thing she's ever done in her entire life to try and get clean from drugs. I'm not trying to like minimize that struggle, but like at the same time, like she was capable of that versus this kid who doesn't really get a say in any of it.
Yeah. And was she, I don't even know what the word, like, was she okay with that? Like when you guys would have those conversations about like, here's what's going to happen. I mean, obviously she was talking about wanting to adopt, but I think that the idea of it at one point would be really difficult to just say, okay, I'm going to give my rights. Here you go. Or was it like she understood the same, like, yeah, I'm not in a place. It's the best thing for him.
Not for her.
Yeah.
For her, it was a fight to the end.
Really?
Yeah. And the hard part is that like, I think I would have fought with her if I felt like she was fighting. If she was fighting in a way that like was helpful. Mm-hmm. It was like she was angry and felt like she should be able to do it, but then didn't. Like at the very end, she got out of a rehab and it was looking like it was like going fairly well. And I got her a job with my dad's company because she needed a job and she was going to need a place to stay, right? Because she needs certain things.
Yeah.
And the one thing I've been impressed with is like the amount of help that DCFS actually offers to people. I know you hear like horror stories, but like if you want to take advantage of it, you can't believe like she could have had, you know, a place to live. They will help with like so many like federal funding and things to like really help people be able to like do what they need to do, you know, and to like be able to reunify with their child. But like it was like, it got to the point where it was like, she was so angry because I became Charlie's advocate. And if she was not going to live up to the things that she really needed to be able to provide for Charlie, like, then I was going to fight for Charlie rather than for her. Do you know what I mean?
In an adoption process, it might be a dumb question, but like, I don't know. But is there ever a point, like obviously she signed away the rights, so you are the legal guardians, legal parents of Charlie.
Yeah.
Is there a point where she could say, nope, I want that back? Like if she was clean and like had straightened life out and everything, would that ever be a battle that you would have to go down? Or is it like,
not now.
Now it's done?
No, it's done. There was in the beginning, I mean, at the very end, they were looking at this thing called guardianship. Mm-hmm. So guardianship is basically like you're in a divorced relationship with the parent. Like we could share custody or we would be in charge of like all of his basic needs, but she would have like, in the state of Utah, I think it's like, she could give him permission to join the armed forces. She could give permission for him to get married, but like all school records and everything else would be ours, right?
Okay.
But it got to the point where because she was still struggling with drugs so much and still under that vice, my husband Jake was like, he just told the judge, he was like, I can't be Charlie's dad and Kate's dad. Like, I can't do it. I can't parent her and be in charge of like holding boundaries with her and be able to give the love and care that I need to for this child.
Yeah.
So ultimately it was like, we just knew, like there was, at one point they were suggesting that like she would come for visits. And if we thought she was using, we could say, you have to go test. And then if she went to test and it was negative, we would have to pay for the test. But I thought, okay, number one, you're putting us in a situation with this family member that we have to be accusatory with her every time she comes, or we're constantly looking to see if she's like still using, right? It's like,
yeah,
being in a marriage with a drug addict too just didn't sound super enticing to me, right? Like I didn't really want to be in a divorced relationship with a drug addict.
I get that.
So, I mean, ideally, like he was baptized just barely in our church and like I invited her to come and she was, 45 minutes late and sort of, we waited to baptize him. We just sat, every person sat until she got there.
And oh, really? Like, you waited?
Well, also because she brought my mother-in-law with her. So my mother-in-law didn't get to be there either. Otherwise, I probably would have done it. But like, these are just the things that it's like, that would have been a daily occurrence, but we would have had, like, I would have had to hold her accountable. And this way it's like, if she doesn't come, she misses out, right? Which is like sad and awful, but it's like, I don't have to hold her accountable when I'm already trying to like parent her child. Oh, you know what I mean? Yeah, it's hard. I wish, like, my dream would be that like we could be at soccer games and like she would have complete respect and like could hold boundaries that we've asked her to, and like she could show up and we would have this thing, and maybe even eventually, I don't know, she goes and like they're able, because they're going to be able to spend time together. Because the truth is that like I'm not naive to the fact that like there is a hole in Charlie's heart that I can never fill.
Yeah.
Like there's something that I can never give him, which is like exhausting, but also just like it's the nature of the beast, right? Like when you adopt somebody, that's just a reality of their life. So like there's something that's missing.
How do you cope with it then? Like, because
I started therapy, which has been very exciting. Because
first time therapy?
Yes, I've only gone 3 times.
And
we took a parenting class. I'm learning. I think that's how you cope with it. I'm just trying my best to like be open and be honest. And like, I think also like, I think anytime a child has experienced trauma, like divorce or anything, I think you have got to like hit something head on, right? Like, so we just talk about it. And like, I try my best to just be like, dude, I get it. Like you miss her. And he's like, I wish I could be with her. And I was like, I wish that for you too. Cause I don't think that understates the fact that I am glad he's with me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I think we can hold space for both of those things. That like, I wish he actually could be with her. There might be things that were way easier. You know, there's times I'm like, can I give him back? And like, that's like just true, honest, ugly parts of yourself that like you don't really want other people to know about.
Yeah.
You know? And then there's the parts that I'm like, I want him, he's mine, you know?
Well, but I think that's the part with therapy. Like, cause I mean, I've done therapy before, and it's, if you are as honest as you possibly can, like 100%, everything is honest. Even if it is like, I have
the ugly parts.
I have moments where I'm like, man, I wish that it wasn't that way.
Yeah,
like,
I could drop him off at his mom's house.
Yep. Like, it's okay to be honest. It's
vital. I would say it's vital to actually do it.
You're going to get the most out of a therapy session if you are honest.
Yeah.
If you're just saying what you think that they want to hear, or you're saying what, you know, well, I'm going to say this because I don't want a confrontation, or I don't want them to call me out on my bad or my whatever, you're never going to get
or
better.
You're so concerned that the person you're in therapy for is really the problem, when really it's, first of all, it's you.
See, that's
or if it really is someone that like really has like significantly harmed you. Like in this situation, like there's been some things that his mom has done that are awful things, like telling me I'm a horrible mom to my own children and awful things, right? But like the only person I ultimately can deal with is me. Like I can't go in there and be like, and then she said this. They're like, okay, yeah, now what?
Yeah.
You know? And like I have to go, oh yeah, what am I gonna do now? Where's my part in this? Because like, I mean, it's inevitable. Jake and I started a parenting class. We started a parenting class because we were like, we are clearly part of the problem, right? Like we are part of this equation that if we can't parent him in a way that's helpful to him.
So is this a parenting class specifically for adopted kids, or is this just a parenting class in general?
Parenting class in general, but the place that we go to definitely like serves a lot of like foster families. Okay. So there were some people that were in similar situations, but there were some parents that were in they just have, you know, quote unquote normal families dealing with their own stuff. It was an interesting class.
Hey everyone, Mike here. I just wanted to interrupt this episode and say thank you for listening. And please remember to subscribe to our channel and follow us on social media. We need your support to keep these episodes coming. So spread the word, and now back to the conversation. So what are the things that you're learning in the parenting class versus, well, because you're doing both therapy and the parenting class, or were they
parenting class is done
together?
now. No, after the parenting class, I was like, we need to do some therapy.
Okay.
Parenting class was cool. One of the best things I ever heard. You ready for this? She said to me, they said, how does it feel to say no they just like repeated the word no over and over and over and over. They're like, how does it feel in your body? And it felt terrible, right? And they're like, and then they said the word yes. And they're like, how does that make you feel? Makes you feel light. They're like, how often are you telling your child no? And I was like, 20,000 times a day, right? And I said, what do you do though? My son wants to eat ice cream for breakfast. Because kids of foster care, this is really interesting, but like they crave food and water more. Like that need hasn't been met, and that's one of their things that they need. And like creamy sugar, he'll eat sugar till he's sick. So like we have to watch out for stuff like that. But like he wants ice cream for breakfast. I was like, how do I say yes to ice cream for breakfast? Like that makes I could not understand in my brain. It made zero sense. So I was like, she goes, okay, well, what if you said, when he said, can I have ice cream for breakfast? You said, can I have ice cream, right? You say, yeah, after dinner. Yes, you can, after dinner. And like my mind, like it blew my entire mind. I was like,
well, but in that case, you're not telling them
right.
No.
You're just opening up that it can happen at some point, right? And like, it was so interesting because the like combative struggle that I have with him all the time, it was like it just released. It was like, okay, thanks. And I was like, what? Yeah, you have to eat eggs for breakfast and you can have ice cream after dinner. So I've tried like a lot to increase that, and it's hard. I'm not great at it, but like I try to say yes when I can, or that I just am able to say things from like a positive rather than a negative, right?
Yes.
And if this kid's experiencing negative all day, every day, instead of like being able to offer a positive. So that was one thing I learned. I don't know.
And like now, because again, once you learn it, implementing it is hard.
100%.
So how do you go about implementing it? Because I mean, I think you've had, you're how old now?
42.
It's 42. So you've had your entire life, 42 years, where you've been trained to do this one thing.
Well, and I've been parenting for 15 years doing that exact same thing, right?
So how do you go about, like, when somebody asks that question, not to fall and revert back to just no?
So they say that like, it's not the thing you do, it's the thing you do after what you did. So even if I say no, I'll look again and I'll go, actually, yes, you can do it this within the parameters, right?
Okay. So
and then
checking yourself.
Yeah, you have to check yourself. And there's times where like, our own mental health, if we're not in check, we're not going to be great at it. So there's times I'm not great at it. If I'm having a hard week or whatever, I'm not as good at it as I am other times. But I think you just have to be open to like, regardless of like, when you do it wrong, because you're going to do it wrong, that you're ready to try and do it right next time, being really like, I try to just be empathetic with myself and go like, you have 5 kids, you have a lot going on. There's a lot of things that like aren't working for you right now. We're going to try harder tomorrow. That was a rough day,
So how did you find this parenting class? What was it? Was it something that you were like?
I signed Charlie up for therapy at this place that is like known for foster kids.
Okay.
And of course you send the kid first, right? You're like, I'm going to send him.
Well, you test the waters.
Yeah.
That way.
You're like, you do therapy. You're the problem. You're like, you need to handle yourself.
Well, but I find that's a lot of people, we don't like to know that we are the issue.
Oh, for sure.
And so we try to make, everybody does it now. Like it is, social media is full of it.
Yeah.
It's this person's fault. It's never me. I was the victim. I was blah, blah, blah. It's hard to accept and look in the mirror and say, yes, I am a problem, or I have this issue, or whatever it might be. So I totally get sending the kid first and being like,
right. It was like, you do it. You do it. And then it was like, they emailed us one time and I was like, yeah, like we need to do this. So it's like a 12-week course that we took, and the group therapy aspect of it is really nice because you have other parents that you're talking with and able to like legitimately discuss what's happening on a day-to-day basis, a week-to-week basis, I should say. And then they just teach you the different tools. And you have to do this thing called special playtime.
What is that? What's special playtime?
So you get together with your kid and you get like certain toys and you sit on a blanket so the space is like confined and the toys are confined. And then you don't talk except for basically like reflective listening to your child. So like your child will say, I want to play with this toy. And you say, you want to play with that toy. You're really interested in that toy. You're excited about getting to play with that toy. And you reflect on what you're seeing in them. And like, oh, you're wondering what I'm going to do, right? And you can't do anything until the kid invites you. So I did it with my second son. I didn't do it with Charlie. Jake did it with Charlie, but I did it with Louie. And Louie didn't invite me to play. He's 11. He didn't invite me to play for 3 play sessions. Like I watched him play for a half an hour and just reflected on his like playing. And I think it's because Louie needed the attention. So like he needed me to just sit there with him and go, oh, you're going to see how that works. You're interested in what might happen. And by the end of the play session, he started talking to me about the bully at school that like was bugging him and wouldn't stop being mean to him. But it took him that entire time to where he like, they see that basically the idea is to like relinquish control as the adult and allow the child to have the control. So in that area and on that blanket, the child has complete control. They control you, they control how they play, and they control what they talk about. And you just reflectively listen to what they're doing.
That would be so hard.
I got bored one time. I was like, oh my gosh. And then another time I was like, what are we doing? But like, it was amazing. Like by like the 4th play session, Louie was like, I want you to play these cards with me. And I was like, oh, you want me to play cards with you? And he's like, yeah. He's like, here. And I said, he goes, I don't know how to play this. And I said, oh, you're wondering how to play this. And he goes, yeah, I don't know how to play it. And I was like, you're wondering, I'm wondering if you're going to be able to, if you're going to figure it out. I'm wondering, you know, and he's like, and I was like, you think you know how you want to play this. And then he just made up the rules and I had to play and it made him win. He's like, I won. I was like,
do the kids, like when you go through that exercise, do the kids know what the parameters are? Do they, or is this like something that...
You explain that like, you're going to have 30 minutes, that you're going to sit together here, that we're going to just play with the toys that are on the rug, that they can do whatever they want and they're in charge of that playtime. And you also do say, you can invite me to play or I can just be here with you, whatever you want.
Okay, so they know like...
So they know about that. They definitely have a weird reaction. Like Louie was like, why are you talking like that? You know, like you sound weird.
Well, and that's the part I think would be an interesting, because it's not a normal or a common interaction with mom or with dad.
Right.
It's a very, I mean, it's a learning activity, but it's, as a kid, I wonder, do they handle it in a way that's like, why are you being so weird, Mom?
Yeah,
like,
well, they do. And at first he was like, Louie was like, okay, whatever. Charlie didn't even bat an eye. He didn't even bring it up that that's how Jake was playing. But I think that's because Charlie isn't as introspective as Louie is, right? Like Louie was like, what are you doing? And Charlie was like, sweet, we're playing. He didn't even notice that Jake was like just calmly responding to like, you're really interested in that thing. You like that. That's making you feel happy, you know? So Charlie had like no big deal, but it was weird, but it was shocking how like 3 or 4 weeks in, like I started having, like Louie would, by like 10 minutes into the thing, he was like, this kid was mean to me at school today. And I was like, oh, you want to tell me about that kid at school? He's like, yeah, he was really mean to me. And he treated me bad.
Is there a counselor or somebody in the room?
No.
Or the teacher of the class?
No, you just do it at home.
Okay.
So you're doing it. I think it's twofold. It's giving the kid control. It's giving them like the opportunity to kind of be in charge of the relationship for a little while, which then like makes them feel empowered to kind of share how they're feeling. And then it also is just giving you time, right? Like time with the kid, attention to the kid, and kind of having like a present moment. So it was interesting. It was a really interesting class.
Dude, parenting is hard.
So hard.
It really is. There's so many different aspects, and I'm like, I don't know. Like I feel like me and my wife have talked before. Like, what are we doing that's messing our kids up right now? Like, because I'm sure there's something like
I've come to terms with that.
My kids are going to go to therapy one day and just talk
Yeah.
all kinds of smack on like dad doing this or mom doing that.
Well, I love my mom and dad, and I'm still pretty sure they did a bunch of terrible things. Right? I kind of feel like it's our job. Part of it is like, I feel like it's a little bit God-given that like we are the antagonism to our children's story. Like, because no matter what, ultimately their goal is to go and fly the coop, right? Like their goal is to go and be their own person. And that means that there has to be some antagonism, and you're the main character in their story. You're one of the main characters. So I'm okay being a little bit of their antagonism. I think I'm a pretty good one to be like, I love you. Sorry. Yep, that sucked. I'm probably not that great at it. Let's figure out what we want. And then ultimately, like, I think they're going to find it anyway. Because I'm sure there's stuff my parents never tried to do that still screwed me up. Because I interpreted it a certain way, or it hurt me a certain way that it didn't hurt a sibling, or, you know, it never even affected one of my siblings, but affected me. That means it's me. It's not my parents. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, but so you guys did the parenting class first. Was this something
Yes.
you and your husband were like, yep, let's do this? And then what made the switch to being, okay, now I'm going to do therapy? Because the parenting class is teaching you, or I guess it's therapy, it's family therapy. It's not individual?
No, it's individual.
It is individual.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I just got to the point in the process where I realized that like I was still having a hard time like curbing some of my anger or not feeling like really resentful to some of the stuff. And I thought, this is my own bag. Like this is my problem. Like these are things that if I don't heal, I'm just passing on, and I can't actually heal them if I don't know what's going on for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was like, I just have to be able to look at this stuff and like see what it is in order to actually be able to serve them in a way that I need to. So I'm on the journey, man.
Dude, that's awesome. Man.
I know Jake decided he's going to do therapy too. So group therapy leads to individual therapy, leads to healing of the family, or just lots of tears for a while. We're all just a little bit sad for a time while we figure it out. But it's been fun to kind of see like where we're growing. I talked about attachment styles with my kids yesterday, and they were like, what? I was like, I don't know. I learned it in therapy. I'm pretty sure it's something we should all be thinking about.
But so like what has been the most significant change that you've noticed in your, I mean, obviously it's been, you said 3 sessions.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, even after 1 session of therapy, there can be massive changes. But like what have been the most significant changes that you've noticed in yourself or in your family since you've started this whole thing? And
I think that I'm able to label their emotions like not as attacks. Like I think I felt like they were, I don't know, it was like they were like mad at me or I did something wrong, rather than like they've got a need that's just not being met right now. Let's figure this out, right? Like what's happening for you? Where are you at with this? And I think I wasn't there. I think I was just in a reaction place. Everything was reactive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I was just mad and frustrated and felt lonely and felt like people were just trying to take advantage of me all the time. And now it's like, okay, these are living, breathing human beings that like have some stuff that they're trying to figure out too. So I don't know, probably that. I mean, we've had some dumpster fires along the way. I don't think everything like magically got pretty. You know what I mean? Yeah. There's still like right now, like we're in a dumpster fire right now, but I do feel like we have the keys to like the tools to handle it better than we've ever had.
yeah.
So that feels encouraging to feel like, okay, like we can get through this. It's not gonna just be the same dumpster fire and we're just like putting gasoline on it. You know what I mean? Like, oh, beautiful. Let's add some fuel.
So will you be writing a manual?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Well, you know what? Jake, when we were doing the thing, he realized how much of his actor training, because he has his master's in acting.
Okay.
And he realized how much of the actor training is actually like right along with these therapy stuff.
Really?
Yeah, because like you learn about conflict styles in acting, we learn about like in character development, you'll learn about like, oh, this is in the weeds a little bit, but there's a style of acting that's called Laban. Laban, L-A-B-A-N. Okay. So it was this French man who studied movement, and he would put different efforts of movement together, and it would create a movement. So if you are quick, light, and sustained, those three things together make an effort. So like if I'm one character, I might be a punch, right? I enter the room and I'm like, knock it off. This is ridiculous. You guys are awful people, right? I don't mix words. I don't speak with kindness. I speak very directly and like upfront and with like sternness. And then you might have another character that like, I played one character that is, she was a flick. So her effort was a flick. So she was light and she was indirect and she'd carry herself like a little fairy. And this is going to go this way. But like Jake has found that like a lot of that is in our conflict styles. So how do you reach conflict with people, right? So like I'm a punch in conflict. So I'm direct and I'm very heavy and I'm quick. So I'll get over it fast, but I'm going to be like, that was stupid. Why'd you do that? Instead of like, honey, that wasn't the best idea, right? And Jake is heavy as well, but he's sustained, so not quick. So he'll hang out in an argument with me for 70 hours and I want to like be done. But he's like, we're like learning all this stuff and he's like, I teach this to my acting students. Like, this is exactly how am I not doing this at home? Like just being open, being curious, saying yes to certain things, right? Like even that you might have heard of like the term like yes and. Like this is in improv all the time, like say yes and being that kind of a parent, like going to your kids and going yes and to their idea. Like, I want to try this, Mom. Yes, and what else should we do, right? Like different things. And so it kind of like blew his mind. So he's wanted to like collab with like a therapist and like build this together because he's like, dude, this is like, I was trained in all of this. I don't know why I haven't like translated it to my actual life.
I think truly though, if you could like, because there is a lot in therapy, there's a lot of role playing.
We had to role play.
There is a lot of like
we had to role play in group therapy. It was very awkward.
It's really.
Jake would raise his hand every single time. I was like, this is an improv guy. He's the one who's like, I'll do it. I'll play the 5-year-old kid. It's like, okay.
You're like, what is my character going through?
I was like, can you tell us exactly what's been happening today? Okay. I want to look at all the pieces.
But no, I think if he could collab with somebody and turn a form of acting into a therapy, I think it could be very, very useful.
Well, good actors have to get to the point where they're so emotionally vulnerable that they're able to really, truly understand their emotions, right? Mm-hmm. And like a lot of us have shut those down. We have shut it down. Like my therapist drew this big heart and was like, what's in your heart? And I was like, I have no idea what you're asking me to do. She's like, what's in your heart? I was like, again, I don't know what you're looking for. I don't know how to help you with this. And finally she's like, well, this is kind of what I did in my heart. And I was like, oh, okay. So she wanted emotions, like what's in your heart? And Mike, like I could not like decide what was in my heart. I was like
what emotion you were feeling?
Yeah, it was weird. Like your overall intention of your heart. So ultimately she had put inward and outward love. And so I drew in like inward and outward love. And then it led into like, I put like outward love and I put anger. And then I put like loneliness, creativity, and compassion were all things that were in my heart. But I had zero access to that at the beginning of the hour. Like it was like I had deflected for long enough to like know what was in my heart to like, I could not access it. I was like, I have no idea. Dude, I don't even know what you want from me.
Those inward, like really looking inward and being, again, honest with yourself about what is going on in here and in here.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just touched in here and in here. It's very difficult to say honestly, like, but I've seen that. I've had those moments where a therapist is asking questions and you're like, what? Like, I can't answer that. Like, yeah, you can. And they keep asking and you get more and more frustrated.
Have you done a lot of therapy?
I have done probably 12 sessions of therapy.
Hey, that's not bad.
And
you're 9 up on me.
It's rough. Like, I mean, I did a
Did you do solo or did you do couples?
I have done couple therapy. That was when I was married to my first wife. we'd gone through couples therapy, and that was just really weird. It was a lot of like, we were trying to like help our relationship and get to the next level. And it was just a lot of like, hear what she says, now repeat it. And this and that. And then when I went into like normal single therapy, like for myself, that's where it was like really difficult, because it's now I'm looking at myself, and I don't know. And maybe you'll find that like in family therapy or when you're with couples, it's sometimes easy to like, I'm just going to be quiet and let them talk so that it doesn't draw the attention to me.
Yeah, we did that.
When you're in your own individual therapy, I feel like that's where you really get down to the nitty gritty, because there's nobody to escape to.
Yeah.
It's you have yourself to deal with, and that's it.
Yeah.
And so when she asks a question, you can't be like, well, what do you think, honey? Or like, you know.
I started talking to her, and she goes, okay, well, this is a session about you, so I think we can talk about you. Because I was just asking her a bunch of questions about her business and like talking about all these things. And like, I don't realize I'm deflecting, but I'm like, clearly was deflecting.
I was going to say, you do that though, because you don't, like, we don't want
to
get down to the, where are my struggles? Where are the problems in my life? Even though that's what we're there for.
Right. We signed up and we're paying.
When the reality of like, all right,
here it is.
Tell me what's in your heart. You're like, no. I don't want to.
It was like, you tell me what's in my heart. Would you?
It's almost like a game. Like, let's see how good of a therapist you are. Can you get it out of me? Like, I don't know.
You tell me. That's why I'm here, for you to tell me what's in my heart. Yeah, it's been intense. It has been. We're on the journey.
It's been intense, but it's been helpful.
Oh, yeah. I'm so grateful. I'm grateful I'm at this place. I feel like Jake said something the other day, because Charlie was like, had been really rough. And we actually went back to meet with our group. It's been like 3 months, but we went back to meet with them again. And Charlie Jake said, and this is just kind of overall the thought of therapy, but like he said, Charlie is going to be Charlie no matter who he's with. And so we can't blame everything on us, but I can tell you, he goes, that we are the best and the most equipped for Charlie. And I was like, I just like started crying. I was like, oh my gosh, he's right. Because I remember having this moment where I went to his preschool graduation, and I thought, I may suck sometimes. Like, there might be times I am not the best mom, but I know that I'm here right now. Yeah. And like, that wouldn't be the same situation. And I thought, it's going to be okay. And that's the same thing. It's like, I'm here, I'm on the road. I'm trying to do better. I'm really trying to give access to like what I'm feeling like and what I'm actually, you know, like what I'm dealing with and how I can do better to be better for them. But oof, it's hard sometimes.
So, but you're gonna keep going.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah. We're actually starting a new thing with Charlie too. It's called neurobalance.
What is neurobalance?
They hook up brain like electrodes to your head, and they like see what your brain's doing, and they'll stimulate new parts of your brain when they're just kind of watching to see how you react. And I guess there's different places that they'll put the electrodes. If like he's dealing with outbursts, they'll place him on a certain place, and they'll watch his brain and like what it does and how it fluctuates. And there's been kids that like struggle with like autism or outbursts, or people have even like experienced like sexual assault or things like that. Yeah. That I guess just do incredible with this. So we're like super hopeful that this will help kind of, you know, make him feel safe. Because he just doesn't feel safe, I think.
Well, and I think that says a lot though as a parent. Like if you're willing to try these things to try to get a result that will help, I think that's where you're doing an amazing job as a parent. And I try to tell, like I've told this to a few people, but I think that most women, the things that they don't hear a lot is that you're a good mom. And you're doing, from what I can hear, you're doing good. Keep it up, because you're a good mom.
Thanks, Mike.
And that, just like by what you've shared with me today, it really does say a lot about your character in becoming that mom for your kids. You're doing the self-help to get to that point, and you're doing 90,000% more than some kids ever get. So I think kudos.
Thanks,
to you.
Mike. This is why you come to Mike.
Kudos to you.
This is why you get
But
Mike.
I think this is why you get Mike. But no, I think more moms need to hear it more often. And whether it's from a complete stranger, somebody that you know, a friend, kids, whatever, tell moms that they're doing a good job.
Yeah, man, it's
because
exhausting.
It is a rough go.
Yeah,
tell
we play
dads
mental
they're doing a
gym-
good
Yeah,
job
dads too.
I mean, dads,
Hey, all you dads.
we do all right. But moms are like the bread and butter of the family. Like they really do.
We play mental games, man. We are on top of.
But because it is
thoughts.
that role that it's the most what was, I can't remember now. I've just spaced it. You don't get a lot of acknowledgement.
Yeah.
That
Unseen, all the unseen
It's
stuff.
unseen. It's the horrible pay. You know? The pay is awful.
True. It's
for me.
terrible.
But yeah, no,
We're the unsung heroes.
I truly do
of the world.
think that you're doing it. So good
Thanks.
job. Before we finish up,
Yes.
because I still got to put like a couple little sprays
But you
in
nailed
there
it.
or whatever. Is there anything else that you would like to say that you need to like let out to the world on this podcast? Do you want to talk about your podcast too? Because we didn't even get into that, but you do have a podcast. So
No,
if
I mean-
people are wanting to check you out, here's
No.
where they go.
I mean, I do a podcast with a friend. It's called Not Your Mama's Relief Society. So we're both members of the LDS Church, and we are trying to just kind of break down barriers of like culture versus doctrine.
Okay.
We're trying our best to like help people feel like that no matter what, there's room for you on the pew. That's our thing. There's room for you on the pew. So we interview a lot of people who are life coaches and like a religious bend on that. And then we also have talked to we're interviewing a couple actually soon that I'm really interested in. They are a lesbian couple who are married and still attend church together.
Very cool.
So just like things like that, trying to like get people to kind of see things from a different perspective and maybe not the like harsh way we all learned it growing up. I don't know. But
Not the way of like, my way is the right and the only way.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's it.
All right.
You
Well-
nailed this.
Thank you.
I'd get mic'd anytime.
Thanks for being with Mike on the Mic'd Show.
Thanks,
today
everybody.
on the
Welcome to
Mic'd
Mic'd.
Pod-
If you'd like to get mic'd, give us a call.
Not welcome. We're done.
Thanks.
Thanks for your participation. All right.
You're awesome.
That's it.
You did
Thanks,
it.
guys.